country that bought the oil America was trying to embargo, the country that vetoed the UN Security Council resolution that would have authorized international force to open the strait, the country that called the American blockade dangerous and irresponsible in its strongest possible diplomatic language. The country that sent Wang Yi to call Araghchi and tell him that China was ready to support a resolution, and that opened the door for Iran to make today's move as a gesture of diplomatic goodwill rather than a military capitulation. China did not win this war for Iran. China made it possible for Iran to survive this war long enough to end it on terms that are acceptable to Iran. That is a completely different thing, and it is a far more sophisticated and far more durable form of power than anything that comes from military force. I want to use a historical comparison here because I think it illuminates the China dimension in a way that the news coverage is completely missing. Think about Britain and the United States during the Second World War. Before America entered the war formally in December 1941, it was providing Britain with what President Roosevelt called Lend-Lease: weapons, food, ships, raw materials, everything Britain needed to survive the German assault. America was not fighting Germany. America was not at war, but America was providing the economic and material architecture that allowed Britain to hold on long enough for the strategic situation to change. Without Lend-Lease, Britain does not survive 1941. Without surviving 1941, there is no D-Day in 1944. Without D-Day, the war ends differently. One country's quiet economic architecture changed the entire trajectory of the conflict. China is doing something structurally similar for Iran and in some ways more sophisticated. Britain was openly receiving American support. Everyone knew about Lend-Lease. It was public policy, debated in Congress, covered by newspapers. China's support for Iran has been almost entirely invisible. The yuan payments, the dark fleet, the strategic reserve, the UN veto, none of these announce themselves as a Chinese alliance with Iran. They simply function, quietly, consistently, in ways that are very difficult for America to directly confront without triggering a much larger conflict. There is a second historical comparison that I think is even more illuminating. In 1956, Britain and France launched a military operation to seize the Suez Canal after Egypt's President Nasser nationalized it. The operation was military successful. British and French forces were winning on the ground. And then the United States told Britain to stop, not through military force, through economic pressure. America threatened to refuse to support the British pound if Britain did not withdraw. Britain's currency reserves were nearly exhausted. Faced with financial collapse rather than military defeat, Britain withdrew. France withdrew. Nasser kept the canal. And the moment was remembered ever after as Britain's Suez. The moment when Britain discovered that military success means nothing if the economic architecture underneath you can be pulled away.